So 5 days after giving birth to my daughter Madison, I started encountering chest pains. And so went to the emergency room where the doctor told me I was having an active heart attack and that I was not allowed to leave the hospital. The next day, the doctors found that I had a very rare condition in which my coronary arteries actually dissected from themselves. It is a very rare condition called spontaneous coronary artery dissection. I was rushed over from the hospital in Sugar Land over to the medical center where the doctors were afraid to even touch me. The doctors kept me heavily sedated for about a week. I was not able to see my children, which that's all I could worry about. Because of the extent of my dissections, the doctors decided to treat me medicinally for about 18 months in hopes that my condition would heal. My cardiologist and I decided it was best to go in and see if my arteries had healed themselves. What he found was instead of the arteries healing themselves, they had actually created aneurysms. So I received a call from my doctor the very next day asking me to come to the hospital right away to have open heart surgery. I remember thinking and asking, is this an outpatient procedure? And after he laughed at me, he told me no, that I'd be in the hospital for several days afterwards. He asked why I was so concerned, and I said, well, because my son has his first flag football game tomorrow, and I want to make sure that I don't miss it. He laughed, but allowed me to attend the game, but asked that my husband and I go to the hospital immediately for our pre-op conference with the surgeon. It was at that pre-op conference where the surgeon gave me strict instructions not to scream too loud at the football game because I was a ticking time bomb, and that if I screamed too loud, I could die instantly. And so I asked the surgeon, well, how loud is too loud? Because I want to make sure I scream loud, but not loud enough to die. And I remember the surgeon saying, you do not want your son to look up from the stands and see his dead mother. And so I said, okay, I guess I will sit and enjoy the game as quietly as possible because I want to make sure I don't leave him with that visual. My family and I went to the hospital to have open heart surgery where the doctors had planned to do a quadruple bypass, but instead were able to get away with doing a double bypass to correct my condition. That was about 7 years ago when I was only 32 years old, a young mother of an 8-year-old son and a 1.5-year-old daughter, and a husband that I had only been married to for 9 short years. After 5 years, I felt like it was time for me to tell my story and hope that it would impact at least one other person. So I met Regay in the summer of 2016 at a networking group function. At the time, each of us were going around the room, introducing ourselves and telling about what was the hardest thing we ever had to overcome in life.
And so what better way to get to know a brand new set of people in the room than to share your high lows. And when Temika shared that she had had heart surgery and I had had some issues over the previous years, and had my checkup coming up, and that was in the summer, so a couple months afterwards, I ran to her immediately after the meeting and just said, wait, you're a young female, we're about the same age, and you had what, like real heart surgery? Like the kind, they open you up, open heart? She's like, yes. And so it just baffled me, and more than anything, it kept me on track to go, you know what, I can't miss that meeting. You know, and I cannot miss getting that checkup and, you know, really following your intuition and trusting your gut. Knowing what my family history was, knowing that I'd had multiple grandparents, uncles with different cardiovascular disease, I thought, you know what, this is the perfect time. Let's just go get checked, why not? It's an hour out of my day to go get a baseline. So I go to the cardiologist and he said, it looks good, you look pretty healthy, but you have a little bit of high blood pressure. So I just kept going back, getting checked. And so the following year, he said, everything looks moderate like it did last year. But he just sat there with that stethoscope and he just held it on my chest and said, but something is off. And it scared me. The next day after my test, I see a call coming through. I'm at the house, the kids are there, it's in the afternoon. It's gonna be the nurse saying, go about your busy life, your hectic schedule, and it's fine. However, it was the cardiologist on the phone. He goes, "Are you sitting down?" To which I said, "Well, I was." I said, "But now I think I'm about to pass out." Once I found out I was having the surgery, as normal, I was in go mode. I immediately called Temika, and I wanted every detail. I wanted to know when I woke up out of that surgery, what was going on. And so at this point, I said, I've got to take care of me. I think in some form or fashion, we all have a loved one, somebody we're as touched within 3 degrees. I feel like grandparents, friends, and so it is such a prevalent disease that we've got to do something about it.
1 in 3 women are affected by some type of cardiovascular disease. And cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer, when you compare to all cancers combined. The American Heart Association itself as an organization, its primary function is to spread advocacy and awareness to improve the overall health of our communities. So why not do our part for our families, and especially for us as working moms, for each other? As proud supporters of the American Heart Association, we must unite.
We must advocate and we must spread the message. Let's go red.